Alright lads, sorry for this scuffed video at midnight, but we actually got a confirmation on what the NA exclusive is, and for all the naysayers, bro, it is a GSSR summon packed with some very strong characters. Now, you do still have to do 12 paid Saint Quartz, but still, it is a GSSR summon as long as you finished part 1, and that's absolutely sick. We're going to kind of just look at some of the servants that we actually have here, because I haven't looked at it. I just got pinged in my Discord. Someone was like, dude, we're getting another GSSR. So for everyone that thought we were just going to get like a CE or some random banner, well, the banner people are like half right, but the CE people, they can suck it, all right? Because we're getting a GSSR. This is really sick. I absolutely love that they're doing this, by the way, because dog, it does mean that in the future we might get just little bonus GSSRs and stuff like this thrown in over here on NA. That's absolutely hype. I absolutely love that, because usually you just have to wait till New Year's or during the anniversary to get these GSSRs, but who knows, maybe even for like Thanksgiving or something, they might introduce a GSSR summon, which is good, because if you're one of those guys that really can't wail on the game and you can't afford to go like $300 deep into a banner, at the very least paying like $10 to go ahead and get a guaranteed SSR definitely can help your account out a lot. So let's kind of look at what we got here. So first and foremost, I see Nero Bride is on here, and that's very nice. If you do not have Castoria, this is going to be a very good servant for you to pick up, because she's kind of like baby Castoria. She gives you a lot of NP gain, gives you like a 30% battery, pretty good attack, and she also gives you a sky attribute damage mod. So again, kind of like baby Castoria. She also throws in like a heal and some defense, so that can be really nice if you just started playing the game, which I actually noticed when I was streaming earlier today. I had a lot of new players coming in and asking like, hey, are there any like really good servants to pick up? And I was like, unfortunately, all of these really good servants just left. But hey, if you pick up Nero Bride, she's kind of like baby Castoria. Okita's really good. It's just unfortunate that Quick is not in a really good position, but you can kind of use Okita without Scotty. She's pretty self-sufficient. She has her own dodge for survivability. Her quick cards are really strong. She can gen stars. She can regenerate her own NP fairly well, and whenever she's attacking, she also gives herself more attack as well. Just a very straightforward good servant. Shiki's kind of an L. I know that there's a lot of Shiki fans that are going to watch this and be like, oh no, trust me, dude, like she's really good, but out of all the servants that you could probably get on this, Shiki's probably one of the worst ones. Unfortunately, she just has very low hits on her NP, and the insta-kill mechanic doesn't really work very well for refunding your NP, but if you want to bring her to like challenge quest, I guess she has like Pierce Invul, so that could be nice, I suppose, if you need someone to do that. I guess she's not like a complete flop, but definitely not someone you want to pull. Now, someone that I want to get is Squirtoria over here. Just a very good arts looping servant. You kind of just point her at somebody and she loops her NP like 75 times in a row, while also suppressing the enemy's NP, because every time she fires her NP, she's lowering their NP gauge by 1. So she's very good. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but think of her as like death by 1,000 cuts. You're going to be firing your NP like every single turn, especially if you have Castoria. And so you're going to just knock the enemy down eventually. And it's really nice to play with her, because the enemy pretty much just never gets a chance to throw an NP your way, because you're always suppressing their NP. Gil is always going to be one of those strong servants. He pretty much has a damage mod against all servants in the game. So you can unironically bring him to more difficult content and he'll do fairly well. He has no survivability on his own, so you do have to kind of babysit him a little bit, but he can do some nice crits. His hits on all of his stuff is really insane. They're all 5 hits, and his extra attack is like 8 hits or something. He's got a nice battery, and he'll eventually get a buff, I believe in about 1.5 years, that'll give him extra NP damage as well. So he's one of those servants that I don't think they're ever going to let be irrelevant, because it's Gilgamesh. Like, I don't think Gilgamesh and Artoria will really ever be bad, because they're kind of like the faces of the Fate franchise, right? So he's just a very good servant to have in general. Ishtar is very good. Just really high free damage. If you have Koyenskaya, you can buster farm with her, because she does have that 50% battery. You do have to do a little bit of timing with her third skill, because it's a delayed buff that the turn after you activate it, you get this massive attack buff. So if you're a newer player and you don't know about that gimmick, just take that into account. Brynhildr, unfortunately, is a good servant. I think she's pretty decent, but she's on the same banner as Skahawk, and both of these are pretty much single target Lancer nukers, right? And unfortunately, Skahawk just does it better. Like, everything that Brynhildr does, it just seems that Skahawk kind of does it better. That doesn't mean that if you get Brynhildr, you shouldn't use her. She has this special damage mod against Brynhildr's Beloved, which is pretty decent. It does hit a nice swath of, different servants, but Skyhawks has the anti-divine, and anti-divine is really good because not only is it a very common thing that you'll probably run into, but a lot of bosses have divinity, so it's just very good for that. Similarly, Tamamo over here will get a little bit better after her third skill gets buffed. They slap on like a 30% battery, I believe, but she does have an anti-male niche, so if you want to bring her to just kick some random male servants in the nuts, that's absolutely fine. Just bring her to go ahead and do that. Iskandar, as popular as he is, and as much as I love the homie over here, he's not very good. If you get Iskandar, I'm very sorry, man. If you need a hug, I'll be waiting out back, and you could cry it out with me over there. Iskandar's not very good. They kind of just left him out here to die. They have not given him anything in quite a long time, and he's kind of become very irrelevant. But if you do pull him, his niche is that he can drop a lot of stars on his NP with his third skill, because his third skill powers up his NP with a buster buff, and it also gives him this big crit star gen buff as well. So like, even though he has a buster AoE NP, because it has such high hits and he gets the crit star gen buff, he can actually drop a decent bit of stars. Ilya, I would have said, is a bit mid, but they literally just gave her 50% battery, so she went from mid to absolutely bonkers. So if you pull Ilya, she's really, really good. You can use her in a lot of different places. She kind of is just a big beat stick. She kind of just hits people really hard. Not a whole lot to talk about there. Da Vinci is kind of good. Like, she's got a 50% battery. She gets buffs in the future. She has Pierce Invul. Like, she's one of those servants that it's really hard to judge how good she is. Like, most people will probably just say she's mid. I think she might have some applications somewhere, but if you were to be like, okay, where would those applications be? I'm going to be very hard pressed to tell you where you could use that, because I don't really use my own Da Vinci. Now, one of the star units you can get, especially as a new player, is Merlin right here. Merlin is still absolutely crazy. We were just talking about this on stream earlier today. Proto Merlin is a bit better than the new, this Merlin we have right here, but that does not make this guy worse. Just because they basically power crept our boy Merlin over here does not mean that he got any worse. It just means they released better units. This guy is absolutely crazy. He gives NP, attack, AoE invincibility, a large buster buff, huge crit damage, and his NP is still one of the best in the game, giving you the 3 essentials: HP, NP, and crit stars. This guy is invaluable. If you do not have Merlin and you get him off of this, that is absolutely bonkers. This guy is a huge, huge get if you're able to get him. Cleopatra, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, I'm going to say it again. There are 2 different versions of Cleopatra. There is Cleopatra who gets her Imperial Privilege, where she looks really good, and there's Cleopatra who does not have Imperial Privilege. If she does not have her Imperial Privilege, she looks like one of the worst units in the game. If you do get Imperial Privilege, she looks pretty decent, and so just keep that in mind if you're one of the lucky, unlucky people to get her. I don't know what you would count yourself as for that one. MHX, you'll hear a lot of people say that she sucks, but she's gotten a lot of buffs. They've literally buffed all 3 of her skills and her NP, and after all of those, she's relatively decent. Basically, she's an assassin that has an anti-saber niche. If you're very confused about that, so is everybody when she initially released. Shuten Doji is okay, I suppose. She can do some pretty decent damage. She has a 30% battery. You can kind of probably find some usage for her. She has like a massively debuffing NP that just lays like 9 debuffs on the entire enemy party. So that's kind of neat, I guess, but I don't know how often you'll actually use her. Raiko is not the best right now. She's still okay if you want to bring her to challenge quest. She has decent damage mods, has a good crit niche, can drop some decent stars on her own NP, but they just gave her a buff on the JP version, which does mean that at most it's about 2 years out, unless they, fingers crossed, give it to us early. When she gets that buff, she goes from, again, being kind of mid to being insanely good. Same thing for Kentoki over here, except he's already gotten all of his buffs. Kentoki is very good at just smashing random large enemies. He has a huge battery, huge attack. If you're fighting some weird node where there's just some large guy, you can just throw Kentoki at him and he will probably eviscerate them. I'm personally hoping that I do get this guy because his costume is really, really sick. Amakusa, probably one of the better servants that you won't use. All of his skills read insanely crazy servant. Unfortunately, he's a ruler, so you don't really get to see him doing all that much damage because he has a defensive class with a very offensive kit. So that's just a little unfortunate for him, but he's still decent. If you don't have anybody else, and especially if you're a newer player, you'll get some usage out of him. One of the big things that he has is that his NP actually removes all of the enemy's buffs before it does damage. So any protection or any offensive buffs that they have, he yeets off of them. Dantes, this is an interesting case because he's really good if you have Scotty as a farming servant because he can loop all day, every day. He just got his buff, which made him even better, but I don't know how good he's going to be for people that are like newer players. I suppose he'll still be decent because AoE quick NP means he can drop a lot of stars, has a 50% battery, so he has easy access to his NP. He has Pierce Inful and decent attack, so he could probably put in some work for you, but his real value is when he's farming with Scotty, right? Who actually does come back later on this year. And then, this is just hilarious. Jalter was just on a banner, and they're like, okay, if you didn't get Jalter, then you can try to get her right now again on the GSSR. Jalter's a very, very simple servant. You point her at something and she smashes it. She has the highest attack in the game and her crits and her NP definitely reflect that. But yeah, this is really exciting. I'm super hyped about this. I'm trying to be as quick and concise as I can because I want to go pull on the GSSR right now. I'm really excited to go see who I can go get off this because there are quite a few servants I don't have on here that I kind of want. There's also quite a few servants that I do have that I do not want to pull again. But let me know what you guys get in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace late, guys.